Hi, BookTube, and welcome to summer being definitively here in the UK. That time of year where we can stop complaining about the cold and wet, and we can complain that it's too hot, and it makes me feel frolicky. So I'm sort of desperately casting around for a tag that I could, get all frisky with. And lo and behold, I wake up this morning and there's an alert that Laura Frey has done Steve Donohue's 28 More Questions tag. And that seems absolutely perfect because I'm sure Steve Donohue would welcome certain taking liberties with his tag. So here we go. I'll post links to both of those tags in the description box. How old is your oldest living relative? Well, I have a great aunt. I'm not sure exactly how old she is. She must be in her 90s. And she's the funniest member of our family. And that includes two other members of the family who've actually formally tried to have careers in stand-up comedy. And that doesn't include me, who did a bucket list one-off stand-up comedy routine. But shout out to great Aunt Evelyn. Unfortunately, she probably won't be watching this because I can't imagine she tunes into BookTube. But, keep on making us laugh. Question 2. As an adult, have you ever been in a fight? Well, I haven't. The only piece of advice my father gave me that I ever found useful was he said, if a fight breaks out around you, don't hang around. Get yourself away. And I've sort of studiously observed that. And also it's never really sort of cropped up, but I do sort of rely on my pals with words to avoid getting into a fight. You either make them laugh or you make them cry because you hit their, anxiety or neurosis. Twitter's not really a good indicator of this, but I've never been trolled by a group. I've had just 2 instances of people being upset with stuff that I've put out. One was someone objected to me making a hashtag pun around the Sufi musician Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, who's a musician I'm very fond of, but she objected to me making a pun. And another was a trans. This was quite a long time ago. A trans activist who objected to something I'd done, again in a hashtag pun game. But they were a sort of isolated incidents, so I do sort of trust my ability with words. But Steve did say in his original tag that you had to be over 12 years old to be considered adult, which is kind of odd. And I'd certainly had a fight in my sort of 14, I was 14 or 15. It was at school. And I was, we used to play football every lunchtime. And there was one player who was sort of particularly good. And the nature of my play was having no natural ability, but I was dogged. And I fouled him. And he turned around to me and said, look, if you do that once more, I'm going to clout you. And sure enough, I clouted it. I fouled him again. And he turned around and we got in a fight. 3. Have you ever been slapped in public? No, I can't even find anything funny to sort of rejoinder about that because the answer is no. Question 4. What is the largest non-human animal you've ever seen in person? Well, I've seen a great either killer whale or great blue whale or whatever in one of those sea life parks when I was a child, which does beg the question of consent because I think they're as an adult I think they're terrible. Of course, as a child you're less likely to have such a form position, and it always makes me wonder when you see sort of political demonstrations on whatever issue where a parent is wheeling along a kid in a pushchair. Where's the consent in the kid? He did specify non-human, which is just as well because there are several people bigger than the size of a blue whale because their head has been swollen by ego, mainly celebrities. Question 5. Have you ever had serious surgery? No, I had that pleasure to come. Question 6. If you could only compare the novels of Cormac McCarthy to one kind of garbage, what kind would it be? Right. Well, I suspect I'm in the Steve Donohue camp of Cormac McCarthy with my views. So it would have to be either a citron de cheveux or a milk float that has run over the roadkill, and it would be that roadkill. And now, of course, Americans probably don't know what de cheveux and milk floats are because I'm sure you don't really have them over there. That is the point. That is what Cormac McCarthy is to me. So let's see if Cormac McCarthy fans display their renowned good sense of humour and give me lots of thumbs up for this tag. I suspect I will lose subscribers and I'll get lots of thumbs down. 7. Who would be your dream casting for Superman? Jonathan Franzen. And I refer to my... Now, which one was it? One of my tags. If I can remember, I'll put it in the description box. As to the reasons behind that answer. Oh, yes, it was my... It wasn't a tag, it was a discussion video as do the personal and or political views of authors affect your opinion of their books, in which Jonathan Franzen takes a starring role, as he would in my Superman. Number 8. What's the greatest amount of physical pain you've ever been in? Gallstones. Ouchie. As I said the last time I mentioned this, I'm not comparing it to giving birth, but bloody hell. 9. Do you believe in God or gods? Well, no, but I can't definitively call myself an atheist because, you know, I can't prove the I can't disprove the existence of God any more than I can prove his or her existence. So I'm an agnostic, which is a rather sort of anodyne position to take. Question 10. Have you ever been good and properly drunk? Well, I haven't drunk for 30 years, but in my 20s, well, first of all, I was at college, and towards the end of my time there, it was Cambridge University, and in the summer they had lots of what they call garden parties, which is basically serving pims in the beautiful college gardens. And I had one day where I had 5 different garden parties in 5 different of the colleges. I think it's about 18 or 19 colleges in Cambridge. So fortunately, the first one in terms of time was the furthest away. And what I did, I was basically working my way back home via these garden parties. And by the time I got home, I was very, very drunk. And I collapsed on my bed. I remember I was just wearing a waistcoat without anything under it. It was just a waistcoat and my punk zip trousers. Because, I was making a statement about pims and garden parties. And I lay on my bed and I couldn't fall asleep. But I just remember the room was spinning around me. And I wrote a flash fiction story called The Cosmologist Hangover about that. The other time that I remember being drunk was, again, it was right at the end of a cricket season where we were playing our deadly rivals. And that's deadly in the sense of football, not cricket, because the league I played cricket in was for supporters of football clubs. And my football club is Derby, and I was playing for the London Derby supporters against the Nottingham Forest London supporters. Derby and Nottingham Forest are huge rivals. And our team batted first, and we had an absolute collapse. I was the last batter in because I was really in as a bowler, which is what the Americans call a pitcher. And I top scored with 39 out of our total of 80-something. I mean, that was the best batting performance I'd ever had in my life. And then I took the new ball, which is sort of, being a starter pitcher, and I took 3 wickets of the 10. And despite defending a really small total, we beat them. And if you take 3 wickets and score over 30, I think you're supposed to buy what's called a jug for all your teammates. And it was the end of season, sort of, so I was properly drunk. And I was travelling home in my cricket whites, and I threw up on them. So there you go. To the best of 11, to the best of your knowledge, what's the closest you've ever come to death? Well, we've been approaching death ever since we've been born. So tomorrow I'll be closer to death than today. Actually, thinking about it, the closest to death was when I'd finished Naomi Alderman's The Power, and I wanted to eat my own face to stop having to sort of, memorise what I just read. Question 12. Which Star Trek character would the person who knows you best compare you to? Well, anyone who knows me best knows that I don't like Star Trek. If they mentioned that I was like a Star Trek character, it'd be completely wasted because I wouldn't know who they're talking about. And they probably wouldn't be my friend anyway. Question 13. Have you ever had your life radically changed by a book? Yes. I once went into a bank with a book in a brown paper cover. I pointed at the teller. I said, hand over the money. And he gave me £1 million and I had a fantastic life. Or let's think of another occasion when a book changed my life. That's right. I had to have a heart transplant. They couldn't find a donor that matched me. So they managed to get hold of a metafiction novel, transplanted it for my heart, and all the words sort of, pulsed the lifeblood into me, and I lived and breathed. What do you think? Question 14. Is there a universally beloved classic you simply don't like? No, I don't read classics to avoid this very happenstance. And just scrolling down because there's loads and loads of questions, 28 of them, of course. 15. What is your dream profession? Oh gosh, I have several really. I'd like to be a fact checker for the Urban Dictionary and go around and quiz all the contributors in their urban ghettos and demand proof of usage in its exact context. I'd like to be appointed to the head of the Advertising Standards Commission in the UK, and I would fill lots of complaints and they would pass before me, and I'd rule that those adverts had to be removed. I'd like to be a professional darts player. And still on the sports team, I'd like to be appointed head of the NFL, so the NFL commissioner. And the first ruling I'd bring in is that all owners of NFL clubs had to be kneecapped and therefore take a knee at the start of every game. And that they had to remain on the sidelines without their lower legs in all weather conditions. So that could be in the heat of Texas or in the snow of Buffalo. And if they cavilled and tried to wriggle away, I would insist that they were tied up in chains, just so they sort of, see it from the other point of view. Question 16. Is there an entire genre of reading you're bugged you haven't fully explored? No, I'm bugged that we even have a concept of genre. 17. When you people watch, what's the main thing you notice? Well, I listen out for their conversation, for their use of language. I'm not really interested in what they're talking about, but their use of language reveals so much about people. But the problem is, when you have noise levels in restaurants or cafes, you can't do it. And also, I think I'm going slightly hard of hearing from all my loud music listening. So sadly, I think this gift is going to desert me. Question 18. Barring the unforeseeable, what's the most likely way you'll die? As a hermit, probably, and not discovered for months on end. Although I will still have my hand curled around my pen. It will be in rigor mortis, or it will be skeletal by then. You can't imagine the fact, obviously I haven't written with a pen for 20 years, but it makes a better metaphor than, my hands poised over a keyboard, because that's just rubbish. Question 19. Have you visited any of the world's wonders, ancient or modern? Well, as far as I'm aware, there's only the Great Pyramid at Giza left of the 7 ancient wonders. But I have visited ancient sites. I've been to Ephesus in Turkey, which was at one point posited to be Troy. I've been to, obviously, the old bits of Athens and Rome. I've been to Pompeii and Herculaneum. I've been to the old bits of Jerusalem. Are there any other old bits I've been to? Let's have a look at my notes. No. And in the 1970s, I was brought up in Babylon. Those in the UK will get that reference. As for modern wonders, well, are there any? I did enjoy the Rothko exhibition at the Tate, but that was about it. Question 20. What are your main superpowers? Well, cognitive dissonance I possess in probably greater amounts than anybody else, and being able to see beneath the surface of reality and point out the lies upon which our reality are constructed. But the great irony or the great paradox is that I can only point out these lies by writing fiction. Question 21. Have you ever met any famous people? Yes, but they're all in the media and the arts, so I'd question just how famous they are. Question 22. Have you ever slept out of doors? Regrettably, yes. I hated every waking minute of it, and indeed the whole night was every waking minute because I didn't get any sleep. Question 23. Would you make a good parent, or if you're already a parent, how much do your children hate you? Well, they're still writing out the list of charges to submit to the court, but because I hobbled their education, I don't think they're going to complete it. For my part, I prepared my counter charges, of course. Question 24. New Kids on the Block or the Backstreet Boys? Attack the Block. I'm going to say Einstürzen die Neubauten for this question. I've lost the place in the questions. Question 25. Have you ever been on stage in front of an audience? Yes, and I love it. It's the best thing about writing, is when you read publicly. 26. At the moment, what's your favourite non-booktube channel? I don't really have any. I can't offer an answer to this, nor can I offer a gag. It's the most disappointing question. Question 28. How strong are you? Physically, intellectually, emotionally? Well, I used an emotional hammer on one of those test your emotional strength machines, and it broke. By which I mean the hammer broke, not the machine. Well, intellectually, I'm reasonably happy with where I am. Emotionally, very little winds me up in the world, because I have the overriding emotion for me is terror of death, and after that, anything else seems quite petty. So modern life doesn't really bring me down. And as for sort of physical strength, well, somewhere below average, I imagine. And that's it. Those are my answers. So thanks to Steve and Laura for bringing this to my attention. I shall link to both of them. In terms of tagging, well, Steve has quite correctly said, because this is about you as the booktuber, your personality, everyone should do it rather than say book related tags. So I'm throwing it open to everybody. Enjoy, and hopefully you can be as subversive as you like. Till next time.